while everybody's here. Keith is here. He popped in and said he was be a minute. But a motion on the agenda.
Move to approve.
Any discussion on the agenda?
Aye.
What are minutes from our September 10th meeting?
Make most to bring minutes presented.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any public comment? Ferrero? Okay. About information from supervisors not seated as committee member. Somebody sent something in and wanted it for the record. Am I thinking of?
Nothing that I can come through.
Brad Olson didn't send anything in, that he wanted read into the record.
No. No.
Right. All right, how about our
Oh,
20?
the clerk's office received something from him, but it wasn't sent to the board, just to us.
All right, well, he had called me and asked me to have it not read into the record, but have it part of the information from a supervisor not seated as a committee member.
Okay. We can get it printed for you if you want a copy of it.
I think he had two items, but I think some of it was resolved with the another approach that he might have considered.
All right. Well, just so we're aware that he did send something in, some information.
Is there a resolution or just pertinent information?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I have no idea what it is, but it's just, he just called me and asked me if he could not be present and just send in information.
Yeah.
And that we would receive it.
Should we just wait a minute and until it's printed or something, look at it?
That might not hurt. I mean, he had asked me to do that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
I'll go get it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're not gonna discuss it or anything, so it's just gonna be information we receive. So we can probably go on to the 2026 annual budget.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
All right.
This will be a recap of what was, that's gone through committee so far and, kind of what was done in September. One new line for Jeremy from yesterday, so that's about it. Here we are at the committee side, considering, budget specifics and anything that, technical amendments that have come up or discussion that's come up. The review again of our budget, $73 million in expenditures, up from 2025. The levy increased, 410,000. Sales tax, we're keeping that flat estimating. Again, our 26 budget from 2025, our mill rate drops 17 cents per thousand. Our FTE count is up about 2, and those are the positions in PSD that are state contracted funded, so they rely on those contracts to get filled. Next slide. The recap of our revenues, expensive, deficit of 500,000. That's moving the recycling project, pulling forward some equipment, complete that project. Again, our levy is up. Our mill rate declined 17 cents. And our FTE count is up 2. And the proposed budget allows us not only to manage our general fund account, but keep our levy stable and invest in our infrastructure. Next slide. This is our fund balance currently right now. Right now, the budget takes 1.1 million out of our general fund, so available is $7 million of our general fund. There was a proposal out of ES to pull another $1.2 million out of that to complete the center project next year, which is not a bad idea. Next slide. Through 2024, our CIP was mainly funded through ARPA funds. Now we're back on our debt management side of bonding and keeping our levy stable. This budget uses three different things. Our general fund, our funds are through the general fund P-TAG for a couple pieces of equipment, portion of the recycling charge, and debt financing to keep our levies flat. Administrator's recommendations, we're using all these. Our rates are still favorable for bonding. The borrowing at 2.25 keeps our levy stable, besides net new construction. And we still retain a majority of our general fund for future needs and keeping our savings so we can pivot if something happens. Next slide. This is an overview of the CIP. Breaks down IT projects, vehicles, road construction, facilities, parks, museums. So we're looking at expenditures of about 7.5 million. Next slide. AFRs, these are the same slides you saw in September. Our operating additional funding requests from district attorney deeds, community services, parks, administrations, IT, the risk assessment funding, that is cybersecurity contracts that we continue on to keep our internal things safe. Next slide. Capital AFRs, clerk of courts, facilities has several in here. Here's a list of the recycling center. Items that we're moving forward to take out of the general fund. Law enforcement has 9 squads, resurfacing the jail showers, and new squad computers for them. Parks, a couple vehicles, side by side and a tractor, and then County Road I through highway. Next slide. What came out of ES Public Works was the Justice Center HVAC project. That total project was $2.2 million. We had scheduled in this budget to do $950,000. The idea came up to pull another $1.2 million out of the general fund to complete it all next year. Not a bad idea. It's a good idea. Things get more expensive. It still keeps our fund balance healthy without depleting it too much. The late one that came in from the DA's office was moving a receptionist from a 0.5 to a 0.75. It's $35,000 increase due to their workload. Part of that will be offset by investigator fees of not using right now, so that's small. But right now, that is the only two that have come up so far. But that's a recap of kind of what's been going on through the budget cycle. Right now, still monitoring sales tax naturally and all the other good things, but what I have, do you have some questions for me or other ideas? And the items on the taking another $1.2 million in the DA ones, then will be up for discussion at the board then for adding those to the budget.
What were the 2 positions that you're adding? If the funding, or if they get the funding,
Those were 2 positions in CSD.
you know which ones they are?
Titles,
Yeah.
Tanya, what was the titles of those 2?
One is a support position and one would be a case manager position. They're just carryovers. Technical fixes that we had from this budget year that didn't.
Anybody else? All right.
All right, thank you.
And we didn't have funding for them, so that's where we have.
Where's the funding come from?
It would be from the states. Yeah.
Right, what's our technical amendment recommendations?
We just went over that on that last slide.
We're gonna review investments.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, you can go to the next slide, Claire. Yesterday, the investment committee met, and I want to briefly update you on what we were seeing with our county investments and what the committee has slated for us to do in the next 3 months or so. Going back to just before June 1st, 4 months or so ago, we had 34.2 million under management. You can see that we had quite a lot more fixed investments than liquid. So fixed investments would be CDs and T-bills for us. Majority of the fixed is T-bills. About 22 million of that's T-bills. The remainder is CDs. So what happens with our T-bills, they're laddered out and they come to maturity, and we have to figure out what to do with the proceeds. We've been leaving them in the cash management account. That's why the liquidity is so much higher now than it was 5 months ago. So as we've had these instruments mature, we've left them in the cash management account. Why would we do that? The return's better. If you think about the returns right now on T-bills, it kind of looks like a crooked smile. You get around 3.75, 3.8, 3.9 maybe, with real short-term instruments, T-bills, and then it drops to about 3.5, 3.6 in the 2 to 3 year range, which is where we like to invest in. And then it goes up to over 4 if you're willing to go out 10 years or so, which we don't do and can't do by policy. So it's sort of a crooked smile right now. And we like to buy at the low point. Well, we'd like the low point to not be where we buy, but where we like to buy is a low point right now. However, the Fed is looking at dropping rates as much as we're thinking maybe another half point by the end of the year. And so we think that crooked smile may be a little even lower in the 2 to 3 year range. We're going to start picking up some 2 to 3 year T-bills. That's the plan that was endorsed by the committee yesterday. So ideally, when I'm in front of you again to talk about this, we'll be closer to this 30% liquidity ratio percentage. Any
Is that
questions?
your target, 30%?
If we had, where do we end up at 30%? We'd like to be able to fund, Mo showed you the slide on the available general fund balance. We'd always like to have that liquid. So that's 7 million or so. It's not necessarily the percentage, it's how much money we would want to have on hand to do everything that we might need to do fast. So it just turns out to be about 30%. Any more questions about the graphs?
So the liquid assets, that's in like a money market or something, or what?
It's the government equivalent of a money market. It's a
What
cash.
is it for a return?
Right now, it's getting 3.9 to 4.0.
So, yeah, you're right. It is doing better than okay.
Yeah, the total spread top to bottom on T-bills is a little more than half a 50 basis points, 60 basis points. And right now, the short term beats everything. We're just a little worried about what happens if those rates drop. We got one more slide here. So this was just bullet pointed out the strategy that the committee endorsed. I just mentioned that top bullet. These have not changed and have been persistent now, I think, for more than a year. Keep laddering out. This is a technical sort of thing. When we sell T-bills, they move into a managed account. And, the money managers love that because as a managed account, the rates they pay us aren't as good. So we say, get it out of there. This is not complicated. We can do it ourselves. And we save several basis points by doing that, moving the CS cash account to what's called IS, technical. Here's that point, Dan, to answer your question. And right now, we just favor T-bills over CDs because of the flexibility. Get a little bit better return on CDs, but it's kind of a lot to manage. And if you need the money, not easy to get at. Any questions? Last thing I'll say is, we've got enough of a balance that every quarter we make 300 grand, just with the money sitting there. Nice. Any questions? Thanks a lot.
All right, we're gonna review the Q3 payments in excess of 75,000.
Those are in your packet, itemized right there. There's a lot of tax settlement, with the towns. You can see our schools. You can see some of our large projects from highway and, facilities in there, along with healthcare, or high payments with healthcare. So
It's a CRS-2 tank.
CRS-2 tank was the replacement tank at highway, for their spray patch truck and their spray patch trailer, for pothole patching. That's that system that uses spray and oil and rock to fill in the hole. And then the payment for MIGs, that CRS-2 was the chip sealing projects that was completed by highway with the oil and additive.
How long does that tank last?
That tank there,
The new tank?
15, 20 years. Yeah, it's long lasting. It's heated. They installed it inside. So, for cold weather and stuff, they can still patch just all year long.
What was the total cash outlay for the Clam Falls Dam outside of what we got from the state?
Go back on that. We got 2 million from the state, then we had a 50% grant for the dam application with that on it. I think total on it was right around $500,000. Haven't seen that final number yet, but it was 2 million earmarked. And then the other grant was a 50-50 share of remaining costs after that.
The total project was close to 3 million.
Approximately, yes.
How do we get closer in our estimates to what's projected as to what becomes actual? I know, unfortunately, I'm asking a loaded question, but it appears like on the government side, nothing comes in close to what we bid it. And that's frustrating because in the private world, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, in the municipal world, typically as we budget for projects and then go out for bids, typically in many projects, the outside private sectors knows exactly what we're sitting on for estimates and that. And our bids tend to end up coming very close to that. Every now and then we get one that comes in well under what we anticipated or estimated from our engineers. We do the same thing with equipment and getting those base numbers from vendors and stuff as a budgetary number. And then it's with the private sector, it's up to that. We have a lot of vendors from Minnesota wanting us to go on the Minnesota state bid as they get that concise bid all at the beginning of the year. And currently that's not in our policy to utilize that one. With the dam project, as we go through those projects, there's a little more unknown when we get the base project on there. If the the prep work comes in a little different on that one. So, I mean, if we find more issues with that type of project on the dam side, is a little more harder to get closer to that number.
Well, I'm not trying to shoot the messenger, but it certainly appears like a lot of things that we budget for don't come in anywhere close to what the actual is. And that's really frustrating because being from the business world, that doesn't work in my world. And I'm just trying to understand how we can shore that up and make that tighter than what it's been in the past, because it's all over the board.
One of the levers we could pull, depending on the project and the amount we're looking at, is to go for RFQs, and go for an official bid that way. Not a binding bid to buy from them,
Right.
but a budgetary bid.
So why don't we do that?
We've done it on some projects, but not for specific ones. Sometimes it's timing. But, we can definitely shore that up as we move forward, some of the larger projects. And just go out a couple of months ahead of time before budget season and do that. The ones we can't go out for those, are cost share for federal projects for highways. Because those are done on, requests for qualifications. And you can't discuss funding levels, even though we have the sheet that says what the feds will fund and what the state will fund. We can't disclose those to them, because we'll negate our funding on getting the funding. So that's kind of a backward system, but that's just for, federal highway and that highway system.
Government at its best.
A system that I am not a big fan of, because when I go out for bids, I want to see numbers.
Right.
And what happens on those is we go into request for qualifications. Typically, the highway committee will review all the qualifications and they pick several. And then that gets put to the state. The state then enters into a 3-party agreement with the county, state, and the vendor to see what kind of numbers they can come into with on those ones. So
So that's a process.
that's a different process, yeah. A straight bid for like the, like a roof. Typically, we, reach out to several vendors and say, hey, we got this project coming up. What are we looking at for bids on this? And we email out to a couple vendors to say, what are we looking at for a cost for this roof? Many times they'll shelter that number for budget and give us a high bid, say, you know, budget this amount, but when it comes to the bid, it'll come it'll come in low.
But it doesn't help us as being board members to understand what the true cost is. When a constituent asks me, what's the Clam Falls Dam gonna cost us? I said, well, they're estimating 2.2 million and we're getting 2 million from the state. It should be in check and it comes out of 3 million. How do you miss that by a third? I mean, that's, as a constituent, somebody that's in business goes, if they're doing a roof on one of my buildings and they come in at 20% over, I'm standing on somebody's desk. I'm like, what in the hell? I'm not paying this. It just seems like as we get in government projects, that line stretches and stretches and stretches. And I'm trying to understand how we shore that up. I'm not trying to shoot somebody here, sure, the messenger, but there's gotta be a way that we can shore that up as we're answering to constituents what tax dollars are spending, that we can't be a third off. I don't know the answer, by the way.
Right.
I just venting the issue.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand the issue, you know, as trying to even create the budget and make that go back and then, you know, things come in higher than you expect.
Right.
You know, we come as close as we can.
Well, I think because we get it in my business, obviously, we get asked for a bid number, even sometimes that they don't buy it. But that's a real number.
Right.
They're committing to that. So is there something we can do at the county level to do some of the same and say, okay, I want the real number, not a projected number?
Not what you think it's gonna be.
Exactly.
Let me think about that. If we go out for bids, and get with corporate counsel, so we're not binding
Right.
ourselves to a bid.
Right.
Let me look into that and see what I
Thank
can
you.
come up with. Yep.
That's all I'm asking.
Can I
Sure.
comment? Part of the problem is too, is that like on the Clam Falls Dam, we're beholden to what the engineers are coming up with. So then they're giving us the numbers of what they're estimating. So those are the numbers we're going off of. And then the other problem we have is, you know, we're at the end of our budget cycle right now. So some of the pricing that I've received for some of these jobs are from months ago. And they're inflating their numbers based on trying to
Projected
get a bid
inflation?
for- Yeah, exactly. So that's where some of the numbers are skewed. I don't know how you'd ever get around that other than like what Mo said, on some of our jobs, we can go right to the vendors themselves. But, you know, for instance, the Justice Center, you know, Ahern does all our maintenance for the HVAC. So I get with them and say, okay, if we're going to replace all this stuff, where are we at? They itemize everything and say, okay, well, if you're looking at 2026, this is approximately the number. So then, you know, that's kind of what we run with.
They won't give you a number based on a certain date. So if I say, if we go on this by June 1, what will the number be? They won't give that to you?
No. No, just based on because it has to be a thorough walkthrough then.
Yep.
Based on how many actuators and how many motors and everything, and then they don't know their costs and availability for something they're trying to buy 8 months from now. That's why there is quite a bit of a variance in dollars when we're trying to get quotes that early.
Well, I understand that, but my challenge is it doesn't work quite like that in private enterprise.
Right, but you're not.
We ask
trying
for a
to get-
number, we get a number and we hold them to it.
Yeah, but you're not trying to get numbers for next summer.
Sometimes we are.
Okay.
And they'll project a potential inflation of up to this percent, but then you hold them accountable to that percent.
Mhm.
It just doesn't feel right to me when we put a budget together and we vote on a budget and we accept a budget as a board and it comes in a third higher. Someone's looking at me going, what are you thinking? What are you missing here? So I'm just asking for explanation. Some of that helps me.
Yeah, and part of with Clam Falls Dam is we're putting in for grants, but we don't know exactly
Okay.
if we're gonna get that or not, too.
But that shouldn't have anything to do with the project itself. The grant money comes, whether we get it or not, doesn't affect the cost of the project.
Not the overall cost, no, right?
Can I, on something like the Clam Falls Dam though, of course, this was, you guys, got the bids and stuff before I was involved here, but I'd be a little reluctant to have somebody give me like the worst case scenario type of thing on a bid like that. Because if things go better than expected, they're going to take as much money as they can get. Yeah, I think you want somebody to give you their best guess, but they don't know what they're gonna run into sometimes
But it's
either.
also competitive. Not just one
It is.
person bidding that.
Yeah, it is, but I'd be a little reluctant to ask for, what's the worst case scenario? Because if it goes better than expected, they're not gonna cut you that break.
Well, and I do have something else to add on the Clam Falls Dam. Ayers was our engineer. They put it out for bid. Lunda got the bid at 2.7 million, I believe is what their end was. The next closest one was like 5.8. I mean, so we're going out for bids and there's millions of dollars of difference.
Deviation.
Yes. So,
And that 5.8 might be somebody looking at that and thinking about the worst case scenario.
No doubt. I just think it's worthy of mentioning when we're making decisions on a budget, try to get those numbers as close to actual as what we can.
well, and we try to.
Right.
I mean, we don't.
I didn't say I was shooting the messenger.
No, I know that, but I don't try to overinflate
No,
my prices just to, and I know Brad had brought it up about the carpet at the Justice Center. I don't put in for this amount and know that it's gonna be here, so then I'll just do more. That's not how it works, but, if it does come in at that price, then I'm good. If it does come in a little less, I'm gonna eat the elephant one bite at a time and try to do a little more with that money.
But yeah, I'll look into with corporate counsel on, is there something we get us on certain projects, get a more solid number on that? So,
discussion.
I understand exactly what he's saying, but the Clam Falls Dam was probably the worst example to try to explain. Because of,
That's not a fair example. In all fairness, Jay, that's probably not a fair example,
That
but
was a
it's
tough
not
one.
just that one.
No,
We've seen it in other projects as well.
I totally understand.
and that it's, even, bidding equipment or anything, you see such a variation depending on vendor and style and everything that comes in and, and trying to get that sweet spot where.
Well, and I'm not an advocate of taking low bid, don't get me wrong.
Oh,
But I am an advocate if we have a bid and then I want to know why it doesn't hit it.
Right.
That's the real answer is, okay, it was a $2 million bid and the bill comes at 2.5. Someone needs to tell me why it's 2.5. And inherently, I like to have that why it's 2.5 before it's done.
Why the change orders are.
Right.
Exactly.
Why is this going to be 2.5 and why is this going to be not a surprise to me?
Right.
And it just seems like we end up with more of that than what I do on my side of the world, which I understand is different.
No, great points.
Yeah, it would be nice. But the funding that came and the grants and the negotiating with the power companies on the dam and who's gonna pay, you know.
Well, there's a lot.
That went on for a heck of a.
That's not a good
long time.
example, probably.
Yeah, it was a tough one for me.
I just use it because it's a point of mine when I was looking at the list, Lunda's on there again, and I'm just like,
It was a big.
when is this gonna stop? When's the bleeding stopping here?
Yep, I said that.
All right, anybody else got any questions on the payments in excess of 75,000?
Sorry, Russ.
Well, we do have an hour. All right, how about our resolution 3125 to hold a public hearing on? budget proposal?
So, sir, this is important to pass today so we can keep the budget moving, budget process moving forward. We have to hold a public hearing right before the budget meeting. So that's what this resolution is about.
Anyone like to move on it?
So,
I think we have to.
Yeah.
well, I'll move to, approve resolution 3125.
Second.
And is that with a recommendation?
With the recommendation, yes.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Carried. We have an administrator's update.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a couple things. First and foremost, the sheriff's department beat the Unity kids at homecoming in softball, second year in a row. Sheriff's pretty pleased about that one. September sales tax was up 5% from last September. Currently, we'll be looking at in 2026 advocating for a third judge in Polk County. They're doing a caseload study now. The state is on our cases. Our judges currently each have 600 open cases on each one. Other counties, similar size of judges, have a caseload of open cases of 200. So it's well needed. So that'll be forthcoming with resolutions and support from our legislators to advocate for that judge position. The WCA conference, great networking day. Supervisor Kelly and Bonaprise were down there. Felt very well. October 15th, the Environmental Services Committee is doing a forest tour, starting at 9 a.m. on the 15th and ends at Summers Lake around noon. Currently, we'll have an opening for an HR generalist position, and we did some recruiting for an HR director's position. Looking at the department there, we are going to bump the general HR generalist position 1 grade. This is no cost to the budget as they eliminated one position, the CJCC. So we're looking up shoring up our HR department with those things. The sheriff's department has 2 graduating from the Sheriff Academy at Northwest Tech this month. So hopefully we'll have 2 more officers on duty shortly. The grandstand project has started at the fairgrounds with forming of the foundation and pouring of the concrete here shortly. They will be doing here. They'll be working up here and getting the steel erected this fall. And then the aluminum goes in next spring to be done in April. So that's moving along. But at that point, that is all I have right now as my report.
Any questions?
Can I ask about this letter from Brad during this time or no? Sure.
I suppose the administrator you could.
So in Brad's letter here, he said he attempted to introduce a resolution. Do you know why or what the resolution was?
Joe, you're on.
Are you with us, Joe?
Yeah, so I'm here. So Brad had asked that 2 resolutions be put forward after a conversation with me. I advised that he instead send that letter. basically advocating for what he believed the should be considered in the budget process. I don't know what's in that letter because I don't have it. I'm just imagining what it would contain. But I think that he is asking this committee to contemplate looking at amending the budget to move one position to maybe do a position swap of FTEs from one location to another. He was going to put forward resolutions. I told him he didn't need to do resolutions. You can amend the budget with simple amendments. And so that's, I think, what the basis of those, whatever that letter says, is.
So do we need to do that here or at county board?
So any amendment needs to be at county board. Ultimately, Brad wouldn't be able to engage in the debate or discussion on it. So he really is bringing it to your attention for the five of you to discuss whether or not you wanted to send it to the board with some sort of recommendation, or you would essentially move to recommend to the board that the amendment be made to the budget. So you wouldn't be amending anything today. It really was to get the topic out there, have people discuss the pros and cons of it, and then ultimately any amendment to the budget is going to have to happen at the board.
And couldn't Brad make that motion at that meeting?
Yes, and I think his idea was to allow for a discussion at the general government level prior to it getting up to the board. So I anticipate that that will happen, that he will make that amendment request or motion. But again, I think the intent was to get it in front of this committee for you all to think about it, potentially talk about it if you wanted to, and go from there.
Under what section of our agenda would we talk about it?
During the budget presentation, really. I apologize.
Wouldn't it need to be an agenda item?
So the budget presentation is the opportunity for this committee to discuss with Mo potential additional things that you might want to see on the budget. For example, yesterday, Jeremy in Public Safety, Public Works brought up some potential additional uses of the general fund, stuff like that. So I don't think it would be out of order for you to discuss possible other projects or a violation of open meetings to discuss possible other projects or possible additional spending that you would like to see included in the budget.
All right.
But if you don't want to, then you don't have to, right? I think the idea was to just get it out there and get it on people's radar.
Yeah, and we've asked too that we not get surprises at the meeting in November.
Right.
That's not the time to be discussing it, and so if someone wants an amendment to the budget, we want it to come forward, talk about it, and have everyone aware of it. So if the amendment is made in November, it isn't a surprise. All right, anybody want to talk about it?
Right, I mean, under what agenda item are we, can we only talk to the administrator right now?
No, we're in committee.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm with Brad. I support removing the zoning compliance technician position. We went through the whole budget cycle and nothing was mentioned about it. We had a budget amendment for a trial period of 2 years. It didn't produce the fees that they were expecting it to. They shifted work around that we've done for years up to the point. The number of folks haven't increased, just reallocated work. I don't think it's a needed position long-term. If the zoning department hasn't been caught up at this point, then we will. Just don't think it's a good investment.
Just kind of wondering how we come up with these numbers, and, you know, where does this $5,000 revenue generated number come from? Because I think it was significantly more than that, but in my mind, biggest thing that that position did was resolve 70 or however many zoning violations or complaints. And I don't necessarily want to see that person going out and trying to fine people and bring money in that way to cover their position. I want to see some of these complaints resolved. And that's,
And
you know,
people staying in compliance, knowing there's a compliance officer.
well, there's someone to go out and actually look at these properties and whatever, because at the town level, we get the complaints and we're under county zoning. You call the zoning office and talk about it while they have someone who will go out and look at it. And then the other part about this position is when I was thinking about when tourism requested somebody to go out and identify Airbnbs and try to improve, you know, try to get some tax revenue from that. That really should be this person's job, to look at a zoning issue and a Airbnb and make sure that they're paying the room tax and whatever else.
But they're not, they're handing out permits.
Well, then, you know, maybe, I guess I don't know. He's also going out looking at properties. I know, and I don't know how much of that was done before or if that's increased. But, you know, according to Sarah, they settle a lot of complaints. I don't know.
One of the things, you know, I can, you know, the 5,000 number comes from a report I gave for, I think back in August, was it August? That, when I was Ada, the position was at, the cost of the position was at that point was at $95,000. He did generate, $111,000 in revenue issuing permits. All our zoning techs do compliance. This one was specified to handle some of the harder ones. Part of that $5,000 was outstanding debt or outstanding citations that were written. Many of these citations written, we don't get the revenue from them because they're waived if they come into compliance. One of the other things that happens is that of the 202 at that time compliance issues, he resolved 156 of those issues. Resolving those issues saves the county by not going to court or to a jury trial. And that can be anywhere from $122,000 savings to $396,000 in court costs, but just coming in compliance. That's savings we can't quantify, but these cases didn't go to court. So the position has done itself solvent, has done what it's needed to do to be in compliance, but also it's aided the department for how many permits we issue for our county size and the size of that department with that. So it is running in the black is where it needs to be.
Well, I also wonder, you know, there's more opportunity here to do more with that position too, because, you know, we issue all these conditional use permits where somebody gets a wedding venue or you know, a small motor shop or a car repair, whatever. Neighbors complain about, well, you know, this kind of grew beyond what, who's there to go out and look and make sure that they're following the, you know, the conditions that they agreed to. And I don't know that we really even do that once it's, you know, once it's out there.
I think probably the bigger issue from my seat in the House is we have not been very transparent about the changes that have taken place over that position. That position was never illustrated to us as a person that was going to issue permits. That was issued as something separate than what it's become. And that's probably been the issue. And I'm just going to say this topic has been brought up about 5 times in this meeting over the last year. And we have to keep bringing it up because we don't get the answers we're looking for. So I think this continues to erode in understanding where we're at and people digging into things when maybe there's nothing to dig into, but because we're not getting a straight scoop as to what's happened and how it started and where it ended up is probably where that comes from.
Right, 'cause I mean, it was designed for a zoning technician with emphasis on compliance. And
That's not accurate, Mo. It was brought to us as a compliance officer. That's what we bought, and it was on a short-term deal to see what it would generate, and it would be budget neutral. That's not what it's molded into. And that's where the challenge comes. It was never told to us that he'd be issuing 255 permits at the time we hired him, because we had people issuing those permits already without adding that staff person. So to this point, he should have been able to address those issues, not be so concerned about issuing permits. We have other people in the office that aren't issuing permits now.
People rewriting ordinances that were never asked to rewrite ordinances. We have, I mean, it's just out of control in my opinion. There's too much going on that we don't,
What ordinance are you referring to that we should?
all the shoreland zoning stuff that has been rewritten, that nobody really said anything to do. I mean, if we're in compliance with the state's regulations, there's no reason to rewrite our stuff.
We're not in compliance with the state.
Correct.
And that's why we're rewriting that one, and that's why they're going through that in the ES committee.
But there's other ways.
But also, you know, when the committee has asked for what the position has done and all that, that information has been provided. I believe that was handed out at one of these committees, and there was no questions on it at that time. But the ordinances, you know, that are the shoreline, and that one is for compliance, has to be rewritten, and that's why it's going through that process through ES.
What would happen in the department if the position was eliminated?
That department, there'd be an issue with getting out permits. You know, permits are up from last year. They're always up. We seem to run that way. It allows, better, customer service, getting our permits out. This position, this person has actually got their POUT certificate, so they can, look at those also as they're districting them. So it would put a strain on the department on issuing permits. Slow down that process.
Constituents trying to get a permit,
Mm-hmm.
so there would be negatives to
Absolutely.
eliminating the position. And you're not in favor of eliminating it?
No. No, I'm not. I'm not in favor of that. You know, the results of the position and what it's brought value to the department. I think it needs, I would support keeping the position, what it's done for the department and the results and the expectations it's got with compliance issues.
If it was not running in the black, would you feel the same way?
No. Then that would be a different conversation if it was not running in the black.
Well, I don't know that it would be appropriate for a motion
That's what I was wondering.
from this committee. I mean, what was your thoughts, Joe? I mean, can we send something to county board with or without a recommendation from this committee?
Not really anything specifically for you to act on necessarily. What I think you could do is move to add it to Mo's list of things for consideration for budget amendments, which I think there's two things on there now. You could do that. You could move to that this committee is making a recommendation for or against that particular amendment, but there's no formal action really that can come out of the committee.
All right, and if a motion was made for Mo to consider it and it was defeated, what would happen then?
To die, wouldn't it?
Then it would just die?
Right. Nothing would be the result of that.
Then Brad still could bring it up in November. That's
Right. The only thing really you'd be looking at is whether this committee makes some kind of recommendation for the amendment for a potential amendment, or whether it gets added to Mo's list of things for the board to specifically be looking at the October board meeting.
Right.
Brad still has every opportunity to make a motion to amend at the county board. Supervisor Olson still has the opportunity to make that motion at the county board, and it still would have an opportunity to be considered and voted on at that point.
You know, this only brings it out ahead so everyone's aware that something is probably coming up on it.
Correct.
All right,
I'll make a motion to amend the budget to remove the zoning technician position.
To
And
amend.
so,
no,
Again-
that's in order here.
Right.
We can't make a motion to eliminate the position here.
No, I could,
We could
to the,
suggest to
yeah,
the administrator that he consider that as a part of his,
that's what I meant.
okay.
and to include it in his budget presentation is how I would probably phrase that for the
Would-
October board meeting.
Aren't we missing one thing here? I think that presenting it at the budget as a budget amendment would be appropriate. Not disagreeing with that at all, on these issues. But it's then open for discussion so we can hear the opposite side of, to answer some of these questions. Maybe there's some real this is totally a complaint, basically. And there may be some positive information that we would want to consider in order to make a decision whether or not to eliminate this. So at the budget, it would go into discussion at that point, and we could get the other side's information, input, so that we can make a logical decision, not an emotional decision.
I think that's what this does. So he puts it in his address and then we can talk about it then. Right?
Or he doesn't put it in.
Right, or however this vote comes out, if it even gets a second.
What you're trying to do then is get this information contained in this letter
To the county board.
to the county board through
Yeah,
Mo's adjustments to the budget.
yes, correct.
Do we need a motion for that?
Well, there is actually a motion on the floor. We didn't get a second. We started the discussion, but that's fine.
Yeah,
So we should get a second to
I'll second this.
motion to continue. Okay, now, is there further discussion?
Discussion is how to get it there.
Just to get it to the,
Yep.
yeah,
Well, I mean, your motion was that this committee is recommending this action.
yes. Recommending to get it for his consideration
Presentation.
as a budget amendment.
For consideration and discussion.
Yes.
So that's potentially two different things, I think, is what Chair Arcand is getting at. One would be that it get added to the budget presentation as a amendment for the board generally to consider for additions or removals from the budget. One is that this committee is making a recommendation that that amendment occur. So that's two different things. I just for clarity's sake, it
This-
is the
This
motion.
So that, I mean, at this point, the budget is Mo's. We can't tell him what he can and can't put in his budget. We can only make recommendations of what we'd like to see until the November meeting. That's our opportunity to change the budget. Until then, isn't it Mo's budget?
It's Mo's budget. What I'm saying is there have been things that have been included in the presentation that goes in front of the board for what ultimately is being presented to the board. It's Mo's budget, but if the county board moves to amend that budget or indicates that they intend to change that budget, essentially you're directing Mo to change what's in the budget that's going to be presented to the board in November.
But 5 of us can't do that here.
No, correct. You
We
cannot.
can't tell Mo to change the budget or to amend it. We could, if it comes out in a favorable vote to pass the motion, our recommendation to Mo would be to change his budget. Whether he
Not to
does, totally be up to him. Wouldn't it?
Right. So you, again, two different things. One, you could move to have him include it in his presentation for those 3 possible additions or removals that the board is to consider. Add it to the presentation. That's one. Alternatively, you can basically make a recommendation to the county board that when this topic comes up, that this committee believes that that particular amendment is appropriate, really. Those are the two things.
All
So
right.
you're not changing anything. You're just saying this committee is recommending that occur.
What do you find the motion on the floor to be and do if passed?
If I'm understanding the current motion correctly, the current motion, I believe, is directing the county administrator to add to his presentation for the topic of switching the 2 FTEs. Well, I guess I don't know exactly what, again, I don't know what's in Brad's letter. I don't know if he included his,
Eliminate the position. What's the position? The
Zoning technician,
Compliance technician.
compliance.
compliance officer.
it just talks about eliminating that particular FTE.
Nope.
So then that would be what the motion I believe to be on the floor is. Move to add to the budget presentation, the possible removal of the FTE of the zoning technician
Okay.
Correct.
Simple.
in the county administrator's presentation to the board.
But that's how we don't get surprises in November is
Absolutely.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that it was even discussed in this meeting, there won't be no surprises in November,
Right.
that it's coming
Right.
regardless how it comes out of this committee. All right, well, we're gonna do a roll call vote.
Okay, Russ Arkan,
Was there's, oh, Jay second, okay.
It was second.
Dan Ruck,
Yes.
Jeremy Hall.
Yeah.
Jay Luke,
No,
Keith Karpinski.
No,
Right, that's 3 no's and 2 yeses.
All right, well, it's definitely out then.
how did the votes come out? I missed.
3-2.
3 no's, 2 yeses, so we're not making any recommendation from this
Right.
committee to move. But, I mean, it's
I didn't hear
definitely,
your vote. That was
it's
it.
definitely on the floor.
And then again, just as a point of clarity, just so everyone knows, Supervisor Olson obviously can still bring his request or move for amendment at the county board.
It's just not gonna be a surprise.
Right.
That's what we ask for, is that if there's gonna be anything, let's have it come before that night. All right. How about why do we have to have a discussion on our November meeting date time? Is it a special meeting or?
Date of budget, wasn't it?
It looks like it's November 6th instead of 13th.
So it's just gonna be moved up a week?
It would be moved up a week and changed to Thursday.
I'll change to Thursday.
Wednesday. Is it Wednesday?
We have it as Thursday because environmental services will meet Wednesday, the 5th, or at 9, and then executive will be at 2 in the afternoon that day, and general government would be Thursday at 8:30.
I'll have to be on like Zoom if I'm able to get on.
executive meeting in November?
Yes.
All right, well, just, I don't think we have yet, so. I'm surprised.
So have you, I guess I don't know what times and date yet,
For this meeting?
for the November meeting,
All right, so when is this meeting in November?
6th?
We said the sixth?
The 6th,
Same
yes,
time?
at 8:30.
6th at 8:30.
When was executive?
Is a Wednesday, November 5th at 2.
All right, it says discussion, so is anyone, well, Dan's already said that he have an issue with the November sixth at 8:30. But you can attend, you just will be out of town.
I think I'll be out of town, but I think I'll be able to get on.
On which one?
On the 6th.
Oh, on the 6th, yeah.
All right. How about our work plan and subject matters for the next meeting?
Well,
Pretty much all budget.
budget stuff.
Anybody does have any items for the next meeting? Get them in before
Deadline.
the deadline. There's nothing worse than amending agendas last minute and not giving the public a good opportunity to know what we're gonna be talking about. If someone has something, I mean, get it in before the deadline that the agendas go out.
There'll be an email coming out from Corporation Council, just reiterating the proper procedure on getting things agended on our committee agendas.
That will be, he's coming out with it, I understand. So that'll clarify it completely.
All right, well, we'll maybe just take a break here. We're not gonna go right into closed session, but we'll take a break and then maybe about, unless WPPA is here and anyone says. Yeah, let's just take a recess, find out if WPPA is here and wants to meet before 10. We'll go into closed session, have an opportunity to speak as a committee, and then bring them in and see what they got.
One more item, Mr. Chair.
No?
Katie was nice enough to bring donuts this morning, so there's donuts over here on the table. Thank you, Katie.
No time to bring that up now. I mean, where were they an hour ago? Right. No, we don't need a motion for recess. We'll recess till 1:45. Yeah, we hear that they're here and want to meet.
But the sort did you get?